Dear students, good morning. Welcome to Law Excellence IAS. Let us start the discussion on today's newspaper, that is 15th October 2020. Sorry for delay today. Due to heavy rains, there are electricity and internet disruptions in Hyderabad. Anyhow, let us start the discussion today. First article is Phased Manufacturing Policy that is hardly smart. To understand this article, you need to think like this. What is better for India? Let us import the components, assemble them in India and then export the mobile phones from India. Or let us ensure that value addition happens in India, components are manufactured in India, assembled in India and then are exported. Obviously, the second thing is good for India. In this context, phased manufacturing policy was introduced in 2016-17. It did not yield the expected results with regard to value addition. It means the mobile phones which are exported from India, they are low cost mobile phones, and the second thing is most of the components of these low cost mobile phones are also imported from other countries. Today government is bringing in another policy that is called production linked incentive. This is meant to attract bigger companies like Apple, Samsung into India. Here also what the government is planning is more the production is made on the size of the production, it is incentivizing these companies. It means government is not looking at where these components are being manufactured. Are they are manufactured in India or they are being imported from abroad? So companies will be conveniently importing the components from abroad. They will assemble and export them from India to take the incentives from India. Next. Total value of incentives, if you observe, India do not fare well with China. So let us take, if 100 rupees is the cost of manufacturing of a mobile phone, in India, with all subsidies, the cost is 90 rupees. If you go to China, it is around 75 rupees. It means incentive structure in China is much lucrative compared to India. Second important issue we need to address here is this. When Samsung moved to Vietnam, almost 63 of the component manufacturers out of 67 who were supplying the Samsung also moved to Vietnam. So this co-mobilization of both the major producer and also suppliers of the components has created the entire manufacturing ecosystem in Vietnam. If that do not happen in India, India becomes just an assembly point in the global value chain of manufacturing of the mobile phones. Indian policy has to direct the movement of major manufacturer and also component manufacturers into a particular ecosystem. That is the essence of this article. The next article is labor's data lost. Let us see, labor codes are manufactured. Are the stakeholders consulted? Indian Labour Conference, like this, large organizations are also not consulted. State governments are also not debated or given a chance to discuss these labour codes. Remember, in India, most of the workforce are called as casual labour, and most of the workforce are interstate migrants. These are running the economy in a true sense. How healthy our workforce is, so healthy our country will be. How capable our workforce is, how skillful our workforce is, so much is the productivity of the economy. But surprisingly, as India's skill sector or Ministry of Labour's effort, everything is focused on formal sector when most of the workforce is lying in informal sector. So that's why formalization of the workforce is the need of the hour. That is the essence of this article. The next article is unpleasant spectacle. This is in the context of Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister Mr. Reddy, Jaganmohan Reddy's letter to CJI accusing senior most judge of the Supreme Court Mr. Ramana and the High Court judges of Andhra Pradesh. Is it necessary for a Chief Minister to release such a letter written to CJI to media? Probably it is unwarranted. And the second thing is, an organized attack on social media by a particular political party followers is also showing a vengeance, and it is also a knee-jerk reaction. And today, High Court of Andhra Pradesh ordered CBI inquiry on these political workers who have used the social media to malign the judiciary and judges. In this context, in the long run, if the power changes and the next government takes this inquiry very seriously, what can be the consequences on these young boys who believed that the political party can do wonders or save them from anything? Keeping that aside, Chief Minister addressing a letter to CJI and not keeping it confidential can attract the contempt of court. Third thing is, Mr. Jagan Reddy himself has 31 cases pending against him. In such a case, an accused, if he is showing fingers at the judges, will the judiciary enjoy the respect is the next question. On the other side of the coin, we need to talk about judicial accountability. National Judicial Appointments Commission, though was enacted by the Parliament, judiciary struck it down saying that independence of judiciary can be compromised. But the accusations which are being made brings back the need for National Judicial Standards and Accountability Bill that is pending in the Parliament. We need to pass that particular bill. As of now, only the forum where the judges' accountability can be handled is the Parliament. That is also by introducing a motion for the removal of a judge. You know that in independent Indian history, no judge is removed from the office through this method. It is very complicated. The next article is Intemperate letter. This is about Governor's letter to Uddhav Thackeray, Chief Minister of Maharashtra. Remember, Governor's office is a constitutional office. It has to function to its dignity and has to uphold the constitution. No other office in India is politicized as like the Governor's office. But Governor ridiculing the secular credentials of a Chief Minister never happened before in Indian history. You know, secularism is one of the basic fabric and foundation of Indian Constitution, and as the protector of the Constitution, he has to safeguard this value rather than ridiculing it. In this context, it is the time the Governor's office need to be reviewed for greater good. That is the take-home point. The next article is RBI tunes into the economy. This article essentially talks about the relationship between inflation and unemployment. It projects an inverse relationship between inflation and unemployment. Higher the inflation, lower is the unemployment. This is called Phillips curve. Most of the monetary decisions are based on this Phillips curve, and central banks across the world follow this Phillips curve. In India, this Phillips curve appears to be of no much use. Let us take a situation. 23% is the economy shrunk, GDP shrinkage in the first quarter. Obviously, jobs are expected to be lost, but inflation is typically very high. Then how this kind of relationship is explained? Phillips curve cannot explain that. In this case, other explanation can be overheating of economy, or many of the inflation factors are outside the economy, like increase in fuel prices or increase in basic cost of the goods like food prices, etc. These are the various assumptions given. So author here trying to say is inflation targeting is not apt for India. The factors that decide the inflation are very different. So this inflation targeting underlying basis is the Phillips curve, and it appears that the wrong foundations are made for India's monetary policy. So RBI making a promise to move forward with economic recovery as the objective is a good news for all of us. That is what author states here. Next is tackling the roots of discrimination. Remember, in India, if any case of caste or gender discrimination happens, there is only individual culpability. An individual who discriminates is punished. But discrimination is also entrenched in the institutions in India. In this case, any institutional accountability is taken up. Let us take if a scheduled caste candidate is discriminated, a Dalit is discriminated, is institution taking any responsibility for that? Probably not. What author emphasizes over here is individual culpability and institutional accountability for discrimination has to go hand in hand. Then only this entrenched menace of discrimination can be handled in India. Remember again, Individual culpability and institutional accountability both have to be addressed in case of discrimination. Next is Indian Americans strongly identify with Democratic Party. Why? What can be the reasons? Most of the times immigrants, especially leading a middle class life in United States of America, they identify with the party that has socialistic bent of mind. That is the case. Democrats are getting the necessary attention from Indians. Second thing is Ms. Kamala Harris, who has roots in India, is running for vice president along with Mr. Joe Biden. That is another reason. Third thing is white supremacism, which is supported indirectly by Mr. Trump, is also heartburn for many of the immigrant community families. These are the points we need to understand. Next is loan borrowers Deepavali is in your hands, Supreme Court tells Center. You know that when loan is waived, what happened? Banks have introduced or imposed interest onto that. This simple interest has become compound interest. Finally, government agreed to waiver the compound interest, but it has kept the deadline as November 15th. In this case, Supreme Court commented that it has to be done as early as possible. Next, on reforms anniversary, Z outlines innovation push. Let me say, in the globalization era, an economic engine, a growth engine is necessary. China has made those growth engines 40 years before. These are called special economic zones. Let us take the situation in India. For Telangana, the growth engine is Hyderabad. For Tamil Nadu, it is Chennai. For Maharashtra, it is Mumbai. So there are certain growth engines which are driving the economic growth across the world. That is the typical feature of globalization. So the special economic zones, they not only drove economy in China, they also have created massive employment and prosperity. In that case, China wants to bring together Macau, Guangdong province and Hong Kong together as a greater Bay region. So remember, Hong Kong is a financial hub. When so much of labor force and then financial capital, when it comes to one single place, it is expected to become a much larger growth engine for the country. Remember, China being the largest economy, second largest economy today, the roots of it is there in its SEZ policy. Though India enacted SEZ, it failed to create momentum to it. So there are many reasons for the same, which we can discuss in the economic classes. But the globalization era proved that having a strong growth engine is essential for economy. These are the points for today. Thank you very much. It is Dr. Rambabu signing off for Law Excellence IAS.